Okay. All right. Not sure why that's happening.
Okay, so let's just have you back on the screen and then I'll share the slides with them later.
All right. Okay, no problem. Well, let me go back to here, and probably my video has stopped. There we go.
Put it back on.
Yep, going back to video. Hold on. There we go. Video's back, I hope. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Alright. Basically, when you look at social media, there's a lot of people making incorrect views, making mistakes, making blunders, and that was for me the starting point to look at social media policies as a rule. Since then, I've evolved to do a little more than just social media policies. I do inventory, monitoring, presentations, whatever have you. I'll skip that. But where I want to get to is actually to, over the course of the last few months, or the last few years, I've developed an approach to implementing social media and social media policies. And when you look at social media policies, I think you need to start out with putting together a good team that actually of people that can bring or can chart, if you want, the different social media platforms that people are on. And the people you need to put around the table, which is what I found from experience, are HR, marketing, and IT. Unless you have a management support person sponsoring the effort, it is never going to work. I've worked with a number of organizations, we've created a great policy, and unfortunately it never worked because there was no management sponsorship. My experience, which I'd like to share with you, is marketeers tend to have a tendency to create simple policies. Use your common sense is what they want most. When you open the newspapers, I think everybody can agree that that is not the best of policies to have, because the newspapers are full of errors. If you want to put HR people in charge of a policy, well, you're going to get something that says you cannot, you cannot, you cannot. And then maybe there's going to be one thing that's in there that's going to say you can. So they're not the best people, but they do know how to write a policy. And the IT people actually control all the buttons. That's why you should have these people around the table. So during our approach at Vanguard Leadership, what we've done is we've developed a process that is a number of steps. The first step is always, I do an audit and an inventory of where the company is actually active. I find out that people tend to say to me, oh yeah, we're active in 3 or 4 social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and maybe YouTube. When you look at it realistically, you probably end up with anywhere from 20 to 25 different platforms, including blogs, including video sites, including photo sites, you name it, they're there. And they most of the time don't know. It's always a good wake-up call to do some of that. That's most of the time the first step I take. The second step is I put that team of 3 departments together. I ask the management sponsor to be present. And obviously, we try and get other people involved, whether it's the legal team or even employees. And I prefer the ones that are against social media to take the hype down rather than the ones that are for it. And finally, if in some companies it has to be part of the employment agreement, and then there's always a group of people called the unions, and it's always a good idea to put those people around the table. During this kickoff meeting, we normally present what social media is, because a lot of them don't even know. We want to find out of how does it fit into their organization, because social media is a tool that will help you achieve your business goals. It has to be part of it. And finally, we need to define what some of the critical factors are that are in the social media policy. As you probably have seen, or you will see, social media policies can go from 1 page through a book of 50 pages. I'm currently working on a policy for a telco in Belgium, and we're up to 20 pages at this point. Normally, the third step in this process, after we've had the kickoff meeting, is we create a draft policy. And the draft policy is most of the time based on other policies that exist within the company, whether it's an IT policy, an employment agreement, whatever have you, as well as the input we got out of the awareness session with these people. And then we go back and forth with the company and we fine-tune the policy to eventually get to what we call a final draft or a final policy. And when you get to the final policy, then the next decision comes up is how do we roll it out? Because the biggest breakdown in writing a social media policy, it is really, really simple. There's lots of examples around that you can base yourself on. But if you have a policy and nobody knows about it, it's no use writing one. So a lot of companies are in a situation where 95% of their employees are unaware there is a policy. It was sent out by email and that was about it. So the step 5 and 6 out of the process of making a policy for me are A, present it to the team that actually worked with it so everybody knows what it's like. And 6 is roll it out to the employees. And there are a number of ways to do this. The ways there are that you can do is you can make a video, and I suggest you take a look at the video done by the Australian, of the Victorian Department of Justice in Australia. They've had a great video, there's a few other ones around by the way. You can do a presentation, you can do training, you have to put it on the internet, or you can be creative and make a cartoon like Adidas did. Take a look, use Google and you'll find their interesting policy. Or you can make gadgets. Most important is that all your employees should be touched by the content of the policy and they are aware of what it is. My experience so far, and I'll wrap my monologue up here, is that a social media policy consists of about 35 different areas. Some of it is policy, which means you have to stick to it or you get punished. Some of it is guidelines, and the guidelines are really used to protect people ruining their own personal reputation. People are very naive and put about everything or anything on social media, whether it's Facebook, blogs, Twitter, photo sites, video sites, you name it. People are very naive thinking it's all going to be protected. It's not. Yes, you can set some settings, but a lot of people don't, which means it gets out into the real world very quickly. And from that side, actually, what I would say is, if you cover all these areas, you roll it out correctly, you have, you have a chance of making social media more reputation-proof. Mistakes will always happen. It would be unrealistic to think that there are going to be no more mistakes, but mistakes will still happen. The last part of any policy, or there's a couple of important things in my eyes that are part of a policy. One is you need to tell people where your company is actually active. Put that in the policy. 2, make people aware that if they see messages that are concerning their company, whether they're positive or negative, who to report them to. So there's some kind of crisis follow-up. 3 is explain why you have a policy. Because of that too is an important thing that's left out of a lot of the policies that I've seen. And 4, it's a document that continuously goes on living, because every day there are new social media platforms being added. I think everybody's aware of Pinterest, which is the booming platform for the moment. But that could be covered under the photo slides if you want, in terms of a policy. I'd like to wrap it up here for at least the formal, monologue. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Well, they're usually very shy that way, you see.
No, they're like the Belgians. They never ask questions.
We do have a Belgian
They're still there. Okay.
So, any question, any comments so far? Yes.
Doing this sort of policy guidelines, is it suitable to address B2C or is it B2B as well?
Did you hear that? Is it suitable to have a policy just for business to consumer or business to business as well?
A policy is for any company that's active in social media, whether it's business to business or business to consumer. It's not any different.
Come on.
What's his favourite example of a company on social media?
What's your favorite example of a company on social media?
In terms of in terms of doing social media, or in terms of the policy in social media? That's my
In terms
question.
of what they've done on social media.
In terms of what they've done.
I think there is not one that actually stands out. I think there's a lot of good ideas that are out there that from different companies. And maybe I'll share a few with you. One is, I like the Starbucks idea of, for example, throwing out the idea box to their consumers, asking their consumers for input and actually throwing it out into social media. There's another great example in the learning experience, which is BT. They've developed a whole e-learning system where people learn from each other how to fix problems on modems, computers, and whatever through the use of video. And there's lots of examples along those lines. There's a whole customer service angle of it. And I'll give you an example that I've personally experienced. My son is currently studying in California. Came over on vacation. He forgot to activate his roaming through when he left the US. We settled the whole communication through Twitter, which I think was a great thing. Instead of having to call a 1-800 number, which I cannot call from Belgium in the US, everything was done within 30 minutes. So there's a lot of good examples out there. I think the important thing is that social media has to support your business objectives. And social media is only part of reaching those objectives. And the companies that I've mentioned actually used social media as a support for reaching those objectives. To say there is one that stands out, I don't think there's one that actually stands out. There's lots of companies that have very good ideas, and that's the companies I'm looking at. The other thing is, and that's the other, there's another important thing, is social.
Ooh, we
Yes,
got.
please. Or you have to be creative with the buttons. You lost me. Hello?
Oh, you got stuck, and we gotta run. Sorry to cut you.
Alright, okay, no problem.
Let's we'll catch up with you. I will in some 15 minutes from now on, and we'll see how we can turn this into a blog. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.